Hello. I am back with another video. I am in a great mood today. I know that obviously the conversation in the world right now, when I first heard about this news, I'm not gonna lie, I was very skeptical about hearing this conversation being kind of thrusted back into the media and in the social conversation, especially with it coming, right in the middle of coronavirus. And there were these, the protests happening against the coronavirus pandemic and that kind of thing. And it seems like there is a very powerful force that I'm not really sure, I think I have some idea of who these unified forces are, but there are powerful forces out there that are finally asserting this movement in a way that is effective and just. So I guess this video, what I'm going to talk about is my experience as an interracial adopted woman through the Black Lives Matter movement, having felt that my voice has been systematically quieted all throughout my life, and kind of my perspective as a non-Black person, but a very firm ally in the equality and just approach to building society. I have committed my life and my work to nonprofits, to serving underserved folks, and taking a very significant pay cut for myself in order to do the work that needs to be done, because nonprofit salaries are not very great. But I live in Oakland, it's a bit of a mecca for nonprofits. There's a lot of nonprofits and activists here, and it's no mistake, I think, that that I landed here because of that. But when the Black Lives Matter movement first started, I think it was back in maybe 2014 or 15, I was working at a nonprofit. Yeah, so Black Lives Matter, sorry, I was just looking up the time. Black Lives Matter was founded July 13th, 2013. That's 6 years ago. And I actually graduated from college in 2013, and I was a big protester in college. I went to UC Irvine from 2009 to 2013. And I was actually very active as a protester against the UC Regents, because at the time they were, every single year, the Regents, which are the administrative leaders of the UC system, every single year their pay rates were increasing significantly, while at the same time student tuition was increasing for public schools. Public schools are supposed to be public, meaning available to the public, not privatized. But essentially the UC system, particularly the Cal State system, is a bit better, but the UC system specifically had essentially become like a privatized kind of thing, and a lot of students were very actively protesting this, and I was very involved in a lot of that. So I've had that protester spirit as long as I can remember. And I grew up in a very kind of quiet suburban town that didn't have any sort of activism or anything as a part of it. But I've always been like a bleeding heart. I remember when Obama was first running for president and the Prop 8 stuff back in 2000, gosh, that was 2008. I was still in high school, and I was, volunteering for political campaigns. And I'll never forget, I was a victim of vandalism in 2008 when I was in high school. Because I had an Obama sticker on my car and a Yes on Prop 8 sign that I had put into the back of my car. Some of the bro white guy football players egged my car and threw feathers all over it, and actually caused some permanent issues. And yeah, that was the first time in my life where I was stunned and actually faced direct victimization, I would say, in a way, for simply stating what I thought was a very righteous opinion. So that was like my introduction to hate, I would say, because I grew up in a very kind of rosy perspective. I'll never forget that moment, that vandalism moment, because it was like the beginning. It was like the first crack in my heart. And again, in college, I was super active in the protests. But when I graduated from college, I think a lot of us go through that kind of disenfranchised. And this is again why the system needs to be changed, so that people coming out of college and people in their early 20s do not go through the same sort of crises that millennials, people that were born in really any time within the last like 40 years have faced this same kind of system where you go to college, you are told that you are an individual, the world is your oyster, there's so much opportunity for you, and then you go out into the real world only to have every single company that you interview for rip away a little bit more of your soul and to ask to take more and more and more from you. And eventually, you feel like a complete shell of yourself to be who the world wants you to be, as opposed to who you just genuinely are inside. And for a lot of people that are born with the path, like white people, this is where the white privilege conversation comes in. A lot of white folks have the path very clearly paved for them, and it's less about although white people do more privileges, but there are a lot of white people that are very poor and that don't really have paths carved for them, or that are also facing systematic oppression. And that right there is, I think, the reason why the Black Lives Matter movement kind of lost some of its steam, and why somebody like Trump was able to become president when a movement like this was attempting to move forward, is because so much, the movement came out, and I remember, obviously, it was very tense, very angry. People were very angry on both sides of the aisle, right? The black folks were, the reasons why black folks would be upset, or I don't think I have to talk about that. It's very obvious. But on the white people side, on the privileged folks side, there was this conversation of like, well, they're just doing their jobs. Cops are just doing their jobs. The ways that the laws were written literally protected the cops that killed Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, the George Zimmermans of the world, the way that he was just let go. Based on the way in which, and this right here has been one of the most helpful things for me to position my understanding, is we get mad and upset at these instances and at these situations, which is valid, but we really need to be angry at the system itself and the fundamental laws that protect the George Zimmermans of the world, or that don't allow for the police that murdered Michael Brown or Trayvon Martin to be held, criminally liable. And I know that states like California and other states have since, because of the Black Lives Matter movement, enacted different laws that will hold police accountable. And we are seeing some of that justice now this time around. But, as a white girl, I'm half Asian too. So, I've been very weirdly positioned in this throughout the whole entire conversation, because I really can understand both sides and I don't want to pick a side. I just think that the answer is for both sides to acknowledge their role in this long-term systematic problem, and that we sit down and just rewrite the law system. We have to reform has to come massively and swiftly. And I feel like we are at a time similar to, when America was first born back in the 1700s, you know what I mean? Like then when the monarchies, the British monarchies, were so clearly violating abuses of power, to the point of like what we're seeing now, where there's these people that just have so much power that they can police themselves. They don't have anybody overwatching them. They are literally in a place where they just simply do not have to be held to any sort of standard, and they can live above laws. They can do whatever they want. The law systems just simply don't matter for them. And the way that that's been has it's been like that here in America for a really, really, really long time. And the patriotism and the nationalism attached to America, you know, we have been just put into a spin cycle from hell in our lives. You know, at least me being born, being almost 30, within the 30 years of my life, I've seen the Gulf War, I've seen the LA riots, I've seen 9/11, I've seen Obama become president, our first Black president. I've seen gay rights movement and trans rights movement and women's movements making momentum and being able to move forward. Although the women's rights movement got kind of squashed, and the ERA stuff is still up in the air. And me as a woman, I'm like, smash the damn patriarchy finally. It's not about patriarchy or matriarchy. I think it's about a system that allows for both. You know what I mean? There's benefits of what a woman can offer in terms of leadership that a man simply can't. And I think when we have such severely male-dominated systems, the whole entire ecosystem becomes fueled for that which benefits patriarchy. Those in the top of power right now, like the Trumps of the world, have also played into a system, and they have been taught their entire lives to hate women, to hate Black people, to value money above everything else. They are symptoms of the broken system too, and the acknowledgement and the recognition of the history, and just really us collectively owning up to our portion of it. I think specifically on the Black side, the reason that a lot of the contestation was so difficult back in, 2013, 14, 15 was because Black folks never had the social conversation. Maybe, it was happening before Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered, but his death really marked the end of the movement at that point, in a way that I don't think that people fully realized, that I think people are starting to realize now, that the exact same kind of objectives and goals and world that JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. were trying to build in the early 1960s is where we are right now. The hate and the white fragile male ego patriarchy bullshit has essentially kept us stalled from progress that should have happened now almost 60 years ago. And we literally cannot allow for this stall of progress anymore. Otherwise, our actual earth that allows us to live is going to die. And it's so terrifying to me that these systems of people uphold this and allow for this. When I first spoke up about the Black Lives Matter movement, I remember, and it honestly was kind of the reason why I felt disenfranchised by the movement. I would try to lend my voice as an ally, and I was literally told by Black folks, and at the time I was accepting and I allowed for them to be angry at me because they needed that space. They needed to be angry. But I was told numerous times, like, shut the fuck up, white girl, shut the fuck up. This is not your conversation. You don't belong. You don't have a voice here, kind of thing. And I think that's part of the reason why the movement had this kind of stalling of time, was because there was a lot of people that still had to get beyond a lot of that anger. And there was still a lot of people that had to process and get to a point of being able to understand their part in it and have that perspective. Because back in 2013, you know, all that disadvantaged Black folks really knew was a lifetime of severe discrimination. And I don't blame any single person for yelling at me and calling me a privileged white girl, but as a privileged white girl, Asian girl, oppressed girl, I mean, I've been ridiculed. I've been fired from jobs for my mental health issues. You know, there's so much oppression outside of just being Black. I really hope and I know that my Black brothers and sisters out there are understanding this and that they're saying, this is our time. We all need to speak up now, and it does feel different than before. And I am just grateful to Black folks that they, you know, helped me kind of check myself back all those years ago. And I certainly became a much more mindful and aware person because of the people that said, fuck you, you white privileged white girl. You know, obviously it made me angry at the moment, but had nobody ever done that, had nobody ever confronted me in that way, I would have never learned. So have conversations with people that you fundamentally disagree with. Be kind, be civil, don't engage with them in a argumentative and combative way. One thing that I've been saying online is that, you know, it seems like the healthy debate is dead, you know, with the news cycle media, all of these fucking white people on news channels screaming about things that they really don't have the perspective to understand, and that just seeps into the mental kind of consciousness. But if any of what I'm saying sounds or appears disconnected, I mean, it's probably because I have been disconnected. I have not been watching the mainstream news about this. I have not been tuning in to the media streams. I'm personally protesting the media, and I'm protesting Facebook right now. I have completely logged off Facebook, and I am not going to be engaging on that platform for the indefinite future, because the leadership of Facebook has proven that not only do they allow for like the civil unrest side of things, they have probably played a direct role into inciting divisions, inciting hate, and splitting consciousness in a way that certain people receive a very specific information stream on their timeline on Facebook, and other people receive completely different fake news, you know, all of that. And that is very real. So that's my kind of stand. That's my experience. The takeaways for me are, I am still running a fundraiser. I'm going to continue to post about this until June 20th. I am running a fundraiser for the East Bay Agency for Children. I am asking for donations of any amount. I will put the link right here and in the description below. And if you have just even $1, the East Bay Agency for Children has been doing this work for decades already. They are an agency here in Oakland, California, dedicated to combating systematic oppression and the challenges faced by severely disadvantaged youth. And as an adoptee, as somebody that has faced similar types of issues because of my family's status, this right here felt like the most organic and absolutely natural cause for me to lean into and to support. And I really hope that you agree. Give EBAC a check out their website, see some of the programs that they're offering, and I know that you will agree that they are a worthy organization. If you want to make a direct donation to them, you can do that as well. But I am collecting, I have a personal goal of $500 for my soup blog, The Soup Troop, and I would more than anything appreciate your support and finding folks out in the community that are willing to put their money where their mouth is and actually engage in action. You know, it's one thing to go out to a protest, but it's another thing to actually volunteer, to put your boots on the ground, to clean up destruction, to preach messages like this, to post and share and engage beyond just walking out in a protest. And that's where my kind of skill set is. So it's kind of incredible that the whole world for the first 28 years of my life seemed to work entirely against me. But it was all preparing me for this. It was all preparing me for... I'm getting emotional because this life has been very difficult for me. I have faced suicide. I have wanted to cease to exist. I've had countless people tell me to shut the fuck up, to stop talking, and go back in the kitchen, you know, that kind of shit. And if I have to be the person to absorb that, I will absorb that. But if I can be a reason and a contributor to other girls and boys and humans not having to be told that they're a piece of shit simply for saying a certain thing or believing in something, that's the kind of world that I want to be a part of. That's the kind of world that I want to create. And that's every single struggle, every single person who has tried to beat me down. Resiliency is so powerful. And when you know that your mission is bigger than any of the noise that's coming in, when you know in your heart and in your soul that your purpose is meaningful, and that what you're driving towards and what you're doing in your life and the actions that you're taking are serving you with meaning, that is what is the most important thing. And keep on driving to your goal, whatever it is. And eventually, it's the most beautiful thing when you can feel the energy of the universe start to flow with you. When you can just surrender that hate and surrender that those feelings of anger, of why things don't work for you. Because the world is not all about you. That's one thing that I've been told. And I get that now. But my world is about me and your world is about you. So we each maximize our own universes while understanding that the earth, Mother Earth, right, is our shared universe. But your world, your universe, and your purpose, don't ever let anybody on the outside of your little universe penetrate in and make you believe that the purpose that you know you're serving and that you know means something to you is not worthy. It's really time for all of us to activate and to find that purpose and to dig deep, because these are things that, you know, may be so hard to understand, or things that, you know, you have to unlearn everything. It's so hard when you have to unlearn literally everything and rebuild, but the world needs it. We need it. And me being the empathic, emotional, sensitive person that I am, this is me. This is what I have. This is what I have to offer the world. And I've tended to make people uncomfortable because of how open and raw I am, but I will never get mad or upset about that anymore, or make myself feel worse, because, you know, I'm just serving my meaning. To my Black brothers and sisters, to my Hispanic brothers and sisters, to my gay, trans, women, white people, Asians, everybody. If I forgot anybody, somebody will probably tell me, but no matter where you're born on planet Earth, no matter what body you were born into or the ways that you feel, you are a wonderful and necessary part of this fabric that unites us all as humans. And we need to stop living for our oppressors, and we need to stop serving a purpose that has nothing to do with our souls meaning. And if I can help activate that in anybody, that's my soul's purpose being served. So thank you guys for listening to me. My tears are not shed from a place of sadness. My tears are an expression of emotion and a weight. It's letting go of years and years and years of thinking I'm inadequate, doubting my value, not feeling that there was a place for me. And the place for me is in this new world. I was just waiting. I was just waiting for this. I was waiting to finally see a world that just might begin to start working for people like me. And I'm so honored and privileged and excited to be here and to see this transformation. And from the bottom of my heart, again, I'm not sad. I promise you guys, don't worry. It's not sadness. It's not. It's emotion. It's raw. It's real. This is what humanity should be. And I will see you guys in the next one. I have nothing but love for you guys, and I thank you for listening to me.